Welcome to Matters of the Heart. Tonight we will be talking about when love goes wrong. Now, this love series was birthed in me in 2017 after my marriage of 2 years failed to take off, even after 4 years of dating. And even prior to my marriage, the Lord called me to write and encourage people to overcome disappointment and heartbreaks and failure. And He called me after the failure of my marriage, and while I was trying to achieve a goal, and that is running to the Olympics, I wrote this book, God's Perfect Plan, as one of the books to encourage people and inspire people to continue fighting and working towards your goals. And then I wrote this book of poetry, Poems from the Heart. And these are poems that were written back in the 80s and 90s and 2000s. And these poems also are to encourage people. And the Lord has been using me, and He just recently used me to write this book. It's Your Journey, It's Your Life, a women's devotional journal on redefining your life. It's not out yet. I haven't officially released it, but when I do, you will know. So this is why I'm doing this series, to help people understand love and what love is all about, and to have some honest conversations. And you know what? I'm going to begin tonight by reading a poem that I wrote in 1993 when I was a teacher at Pleasantville High School. One of my band students was distraught over love. She didn't know what love meant. She didn't know what love was, but she was just hurt from a broken relationship. So here is As for Love, a poem for Nikki. What is love without experience? What is love without emotions? What is love without honesty? And what is love without devotion? To love takes two people who are opposite but equal. To love requires total commitment, total giving, trusting, and time. To love requires total commitment, total giving, trusting, and time. If love is true and honest, it will last forever and ever. But if love is infatuated with lies, it will crush all who are involved. Love cannot be replaced for anything but love. But before you can love, first of all, you must know what love is. And this was written in 1993 for Nikki because she did not know what love was all about. Now, last week we talked about love and what love was in part 1. We talked all about God, and God is love. And tonight we're going to talk about this question. So why does loving someone sometimes go terribly wrong? And I know you can probably think of 1,000 reasons why. We're not going to talk about all 1,000. We're just going to talk about 3. 3 possible reasons. And they are, number 1, perhaps the love of God is not mutually in the hearts of the individual. Number 2, selfishness. Perhaps the individuals are not willing to totally give of themselves. And number 3, we keep making the same mistakes. All right, let's talk about number 1. The love of God is not mutually in the hearts of the individual. Last week, we talked about how God is love, and God gives us love to love others. We talked about the 4 types of love that are found in the Bible: agape, storge, philia, and eros. We talked about the agape love that God gives us so we can learn how to love, and also is God's love for us. So when you're in a relationship, the two of you must be on the same accord when it comes to believing in God, loving God, understanding God, and sharing God's love. You have to be on the same accord. Because if love is so significant to God in our lives, God would not forsake anyone from love. Think about it. When you have the love of God within you, you are more inclined to be thoughtful. You know, you're more inclined to feel bad when you hurt someone or you do something to someone and they may not even realize it and you're confessing. That's the love of God. You know, you want to come together and reason together and solve problems. You want to forgive one another. You don't want to go to bed angry, you know. You don't want to disappoint each other, okay? Because that's what the love of God does for you when you have that. See, God's love will not let you down. Irregardless of how many times we fall down, God will always be there and God will always love us because he cares about us. So you have to be on the same accord in a relationship and have the same beliefs about God and love. Now, in my younger years, when I was a teenager and even in college and I was dating, you know, I knew that I didn't want to date outside of my religion, my Christianity. But, you know, sometimes I did, you know, and it didn't work out. But, you know, when I got older, you know, my dating experience changed. You know, after my divorce, I said, I'm not even going to get into a relationship with an individual who does not believe in God because it's just going to have the conflict. If he doesn't believe in the God that I believe in, he's not going to share the love of God. You know, 1 John says, "Beloved, let us love one another, for love is from God. And whoever loves has been born of God and knows God." So therefore, if one person doesn't have the love of God, then love will go wrong. I can guarantee you that. All right, number 2. Why does love go wrong? Now, this is a good one. Because people are not willing to give of themselves for one another. Bottom line. You know, love is an action word. And talk is cheap. And if you are really ready to put your words into action, you will love and not just use the word I love, the words I love you. You know, people are not willing to give of themselves. And when they're not willing to give of themselves in a relationship, then love is void and it's just meaningless. And those little 3 words, I love you, they are just words. And when love is just a word, this is what it looks like. You promised, remember? You promised in the beginning. And once again, I believed a promise. Just words. The sweet sound of words. Semantics so convincible, but raw. Cold, to say the least. Spoken without thought, without intent. Just words. Syntactically constructed together, without hope, without care. Coming from the dark pit of the heart. Selfish? Yeah, to say the least. But who cares? Certainly not you, because after all, it's your promise. And what's a promise? Just words. Yeah, I wrote that poem back in 1991, and it still has meaning today. Because if someone is not willing to put their words into action, then it is just words. And you often wonder why. Why can't you show me that you love me? Why can't you trust me? Maybe that person isn't willing or able to trust. Maybe they have some bad relationship experiences, and I can contest to that. I've had some bad experiences that make you kind of leery about certain things in a relationship, but you have to learn how to trust. Maybe they have some childhood or some young adult trauma that's preventing them from totally giving of themselves. Or maybe they just have baggage that they just don't want to let go of. Or maybe they're not ready for a relationship. So what does totally giving of yourself in a relationship looks like? It looks like two individuals trusting one another. It looks like two individuals making sacrifices for one another, sending one another cards and flowers, doing things you wouldn't ordinarily do, going out of your way, canceling your plans for them, having their back when you need them, going to battle for them. Did I say sending them cards and flowers? Being there when no one else is there, learning how to trust. That's what totally giving yourself looks like. When you commit yourself to a relationship, you have to stop and ask yourself and ask the other person, are you willing to totally give yourself to me? Are you willing to totally trust me in a relationship? And in some of my relationships, I look back and I think, and especially in my marriages, it wasn't there. He wasn't totally willing to trust and give himself to me. But unfortunately, I found that out after the fact. So if you are in a relationship and you have seen more stormy nights than sunny days, then you have to stop and do an assessment, and determine whether or not you are giving your all to that marriage or to that relationship and to that individual. Because if you're not and you're having problems, then you need to go back, reassess, and you need to give of yourself to make that relationship work. Now, the final reason why love can possibly go wrong, my 3 top reasons, we keep making the same mistakes. Whether we're making the same relationship mistakes or while we're in a relationship, we keep making the same mistakes and offending one another, But let's look at making the same relationship mistakes. You got to look at what part do you play in the mistakes in your relationship. When love goes wrong in your relationship, we're willing to blame the other person and say, oh, he didn't do this and he didn't do that. But honestly, you got to stop and look and say, what did I do? Or what didn't I do? How did I cause conflict? Or how didn't I try to clear up conflict? Love is a two-way street. It takes two. Conflict is a two-way street. It takes two. So if you keep making the same mistakes, you have to look at yourself and figure out, what did I do wrong? What am I doing wrong? And how can I fix it? And how can I change it? But you know what? Sometimes when love goes wrong and ends up in a failed relationship, that could mean that love was never there. Love never existed. Remember, just words and again, I believed you. I believed your words. We want to be loved. We want to be in love. So when someone you think loves you tells you that they love you, you want to believe it. And you don't know until it's too late that love was not there. Perhaps you were in a forced relationship or a relationship of convenience. I'm single, he's single, we have careers. Let's get married. Let's move in together. Let's get married. This is convenient. That's not love. And love will go wrong when you get into a relationship for convenience or a relationship that was forced or someone thinks that you guys belong together. You got to listen to your heart and you got to know that that person is for real. Well, my sisters and my friend Monica tells me that my problem is I keep picking the same type of guys, It's not like I'm running around saying, hey, you, and hey, you, and hey, you. No, these guys are like coming to me, but ultimately, it is up to the guy, because Mom used to always say, he who finds a wife finds a good thing, and that comes from the Bible, Proverbs chapter 18, verse 22. But yes, it is up to the woman to accept the invitation. So perhaps I am accepting the invitation from the same type of guys and things just aren't working out. So that's a reflection on me. So here is my answer to the same mistakes I keep making. And it is the autobiography in 5 short chapters. I did not write this. I wish I had written it. I actually came upon it when I was in college. When I was researching poetry, I found this poem, and this is the original paper from college. It is very old, but this poem is so meaningful, and I want to share this poem with you. It is an autobiography in 5 short chapters by Portia Nelson. I walk down the street. There is a hole in the sidewalk. I fall in. I am lost. I am helpless. It isn't my fault. It takes forever to find a way out. Chapter 2. I walk down the same street. There is a hole in the sidewalk. I pretend I don't see it. I fall in again. I can't believe I'm in the same place. But it isn't my fault. It still takes a long time to get out. Chapter 3. I walk down the same street. There is a hole in the sidewalk. I see it is there. I still fall in. It's a habit. My eyes are open. I know where I am. It is my fault. I get out immediately. Chapter 4. I walk down the same street. There is a hole in the sidewalk. I walk around it. Chapter 5. I walk down a different street. So, ladies and gentlemen, you have to change your habits. Do something different. Walk down a different street in your love relationships, or if you're looking for love. Stop making the same mistakes. So when love goes wrong in our lives, we have to stop, do an assessment, and figure out why love went wrong. Is it because we're not sharing God's love mutually? Is it because one of us is selfish and is not willing to totally give? Or are we just making the same mistakes? Thank you very much for sharing your Friday night with me. That was When Love Goes Wrong, Matters of the Heart, Love Series Part 1. The music you hear in the background is by gospel duo Duncan and Rachelle. Thank you for lending me your music. And thank you for sharing your Friday night, date night with me. And join me next week with Love Series Part 3, Undying Love, Connecting Heart to Heart. I'm Dr. Robin with Matters of the Heart. Thank you and good night.